disempowering impact of the way languages are responded to in private and public schools. And by public schools over here, we mean the government-run schools. So Bourdieu would say that this linguistic hierarchy that is established through pedagogical encounters, that is, the encounters between teachers and students, and by the feedback of the teachers to what the students have done, actually is very, very important because it carries the legitimization of an institution. Now, let me explain it a little bit more. If you have come across very young children who have just started to go to school, or if you have younger siblings or children, you must have heard them say to their moms that you don't know anything. This is what my teacher says. So they, from this very young age, give a lot of preference to what the teacher is saying over what their moms or parents are saying, because the teachers always speak from the legitimized institutional authority. And this is an authority that everyone recognizes and respects, may it be the teachers or may it be the students, even when they are very, very young. So what the teachers say have a lot of importance and lot of authority, and it is considered correct. So when the teachers respond sort of in a derogatory way to the local linguistic capital of the students believe them, and this leads to what we call a naturalization, a common sense based unequal status of different languages, and not just languages, by implication the speakers of that language. So you just come to see it's a common sense behavior to sort of like put down somebody who is speaking a different language, and someone speaking a different language, that is a local language, is of inferior status. His or her language is of inferior status, and there's nothing as compared to the English language, which is being supported and which is almost being given a godlike status in the schools. So legitimization of unequal power of languages is also legitimization of unequal status of people. So if languages are not tolerated, different local languages are not tolerated by the teachers, the students, when they grow up in the wider social society, will exactly replicate the same behavior. They will also be less tolerant of the local languages. And if they themselves speak them, they'll try to make a shift towards dominant language. And that is why the schools play an important part in the maintenance of bilingualism or the diminishing of bilingualism in a society. Cummins, 1996, Cummins has written extensively and is a name in all this work related to languages and empowerment and how it affects not only education but also people. He says these messages, when the local languages are downgraded by the teacher, are disempowering messages. These tell the students that their home cultures, that whatever practices they do at home, the values, everything related to it, which are embodied in the languages they speak, have no place in this educated atmosphere of the schools. So the home cultures then come to be treated as something pathological that have to be fixed by the schools. So if you can remind yourself, it is almost like this colonial way in which you say that this is the privileged language of those who are the elite, is better than any other language. And then you go on to sort of try to educate the natives into that education, into that language, thinking that their own culture is simply devoid of any good stuff. So the messages internalized are that the GSPs, that the government school graduates, although they might be excellent in the subjects that they have studied, yet when you come to say that English language is related to an educated identity, and if the government school children do not have it, then this lack of linguistic capital or the valued linguistic capital becomes a threat to their educated identity. And let me remind you that most of them come from very poor families and they have struggled very hard to be where they are. A lot of sacrifices have been given by the family and by the child himself or herself, who has been able to move up the different grades in a secondary, in this government school's secondary education. So what happens, of course, are that the elites are selected for positions of power, and language has been a tool instrumental in the selection of this elite, a small elite which you sort of select for the positions of power in future.